Heaven Official's Blessing. Tian Guan Ci Fu by Mo Xiang Tong Xiu. Read by Plant Bones. Chapter 18. The Villainous State Preceptor. Gilded Banquet awash in blood. Feng Xin was standing the closest to the two, and he looked at Xie Lian with unconcealed shock. Mu Ting's eyes were glimmering, however, and his restrained shock contained a faint underlying excitement. Xie Qingxuan laid Mingyi down and said, "Chen Qiu, did you make a mistake? If His Highness was the State Preceptor Fang Xin, why would it take you until now to recognize him?" Another voice rang out from the sidelines. "Qingxuan, don't you know? Legends say the State Preceptor Fang Xin was aloof, mysterious and cold. He never showed his face in public and always wore a mask of silver. I'm sure His Highness Tai Hua must have never seen his face." The one who spoke had his arms crossed and stood on the sidelines. It was Pei Ming. The mere sight of him annoyed Xie Qingxuan, and he swung his whisk. "If that's the case, that means no one ever saw what State Preceptor Fang Xin looks like. Why must General Pei make it sound like it's a sure thing that His Highness Xianle is the State Preceptor Fang Xin?" When Xie Qingxuan and Xie Lian worked together, it was a ridiculous and hilarious affair. But in the heavenly court they were composed, calm and poised, very mindful of their demeanors. Just then a snow-white figure appeared from the back hall. Upon his arrival, everyone settled down. Chattering officials quickly returned to their respective places and bowed. "My lord." Dunwu motioned with one hand, and everyone straightened up once more. He walked willfully, and as he passed Xie Lian, he tapped on his right shoulder. Fresh blood was still dripping down Xie Lian's sleeve, but with that tap it ceased immediately. After briefly checking over Mingyi, Zhenwu stated, "It's nothing serious. Settle the Earthmaster first." Thus 4 heavenly officials came over to gather Mingyi up and to carry him away. Xie Qingxuan looked as if he wanted to follow, but seeing such tension in the Palace of Divine Might, he couldn't not worry, and decided to stay after all. With hands clasped behind his back, Junwu returned to the throne before he spoke again. "So tell me, what has happened now? Why is Tai Hua refusing to let Xianle go, and why is Xianle bowing his head?" Lang Tenchou took another glance at Xie Lian and saw that he was still silent. As they were surrounded by heavenly officials, there was no need to fear his escape. Lang Tenchou released his wrist and turned to Zhengwu with a bow. "My lord, so many centuries ago this man assumed the name Fang Xin, slaughtered my blood clan, and brought ruin to my kingdom. I demand a duel and ask my lord to be our judge." Within the Palace of Divine Might, even those who had never heard the name Fang Xin hurried to research the name within the communication array. It's a good thing Ling Wen was present to answer everyone's query, as what was uncovered was truly an astonishing tale. The State Preceptor Fang Xin was both the savior and teacher of the Crown Prince of Yong'an, Lang Tenchou. He was eventually named as one of the dual evil masters because of the infamous Gilded Banquet massacre of the Yong'an monarchy. "What's a Gilded Banquet?" Xie Qingxuan asked. "Lord Windmaster," Ling Wen replied. "This Gilded Banquet was a tradition taken from the nobility of Xianle. It was called such because every wine cup, utensil, piece of cutlery, and every other such serving tool was of the highest grade of gold, incomparably extravagant. At the very beginning, when the kingdom of Yong'an was established, they vowed to the world that they would put an end to the culture of excess from the old kingdom. They swore that they would never repeat the same mistakes, that they would focus solely on the people. And yet only after a few decades, the old ways were relearned, including that culture of excess." Ling Wen continued. "On that night, the 17th birthday of the Crown Prince of Yong'an, the palace threw a gilded banquet in celebration. The State Preceptor Fang Xin, it was at that feast, with that sword in hand, that he slaughtered every member of the royal family in attendance." Golden goblets toppled, and blood spilled like wine. Because of his late arrival to the feast, only the Crown Prince of Yong'an escaped death, but he too was almost killed. This coup was no doubt a huge blow to Yong'an. If it wasn't for Lang Tengzhou, whose arduous efforts won the people's hearts, the country would have certainly been plunged into chaos. It was with great difficulty that the upheaval was settled, and soon after, the Yong'an monarchy released a bounty for the capture of the fugitive murderer. When he was last apprehended, Lang Tengzhou killed that evil cultivator, the state preceptor Fang Xin, with his own 2 hands. Then he sealed the corpse within a triple-layered coffin before condemning it to the rest within the earth. However, the roots of the monarchy had already been gravely damaged. It saw an inevitable, gradual decline until it was last replaced by the next dynasty. Lang Tengzhou's glare was locked firmly on Xialian. I never understood why you did what you did. You said it was because you couldn't stand seeing us on the throne. I didn't believe it. And I never thought you wanted to overthrow the monarchy and take our place. But now I finally know why. The heavenly officials gasped, muttering to each other. It was revenge! Ain't it just like that? The kingdom of Xianle had fallen, so he had to ruin Yong'an too. The Yong'an people killed his own royal parents, so he had to murder the royal parents of the Crown Prince of Yong'an. An eye for an eye. It's pure vengeance. But the ones who wiped out Xianle weren't from Lang Tengzhou's generation. Such retribution was completely unreasonable. And here I thought the laughingstock of the 3 realms was just a fool. Turns out he's actually quite an aggressive character, becoming a state preceptor in an enemy state as his cover, slaughtering the entire monarch in one go. Incredible. Xialian could feel Jun Wu's eyes on him and closed his own. He heard Jun Wu say a moment later, Tai Hua, you firmly believe Xianle to be Fang Xin, but do you have proof? The state preceptor Fang Xin was the one who taught me swordsmanship. How could I not recognize him the moment he struck? Lang Tengzhou replied. The hushed whispers grew even more excited. Even if he needed to keep his cover intact, wasn't teaching the Crown Prince swordsmanship a little unnecessary? Since his 3rd ascension, we haven't seen him touch a sword even once. It's no wonder he's afraid to blow his cover. Lang Tengzhou stated, I've recently went to Ghost City and faced Crimson Rain-Sought Flower. As the crowd listened to him explain what transpired in Ghost City and about Huateng, many of the officials shuddered just hearing him mentioned. Lang Tengzhou continued his story. When I was 12, I was once kidnapped during an outing. The kidnappers dragged me into the streets, and when the guards caught up, there was a violent brawl. A street busker was dragged into chaos, and bruised as he was, he broke up the fight with a mere tree branch. With it, he easily parried 2 swords and rescued me. The kidnappers and the guards had all suffered grave injuries, and so it was this busker who helped me escape and escorted me all the way back to the palace. Out of immense gratitude, His Majesty, my father, and my mother, the Queen, fervently tried to retain him and discovered his tremendous ability with swordsmanship. So he's ultimately invited to become state preceptor. He taught me the art of the blade for 5 years, and I'm more than familiar with his style. How can I be mistaken? Your Highness Tai Hua, Mu Qing head quietly. You said yourself that what you saw was only a fleeting image. No one has confirmed it yet except you. Thus these accusations are only by your word. Mu Qing's argument sounded like it was in Xialian's favor, but the truth was more complex than that. Mu Qing must have determined that Lang Tengzhou was quite convinced of his take on the evidence, and the more he doubted the truth, the more adamant Lang Tengzhou would be to prove himself. This was not the least bit helpful to Xialian's situation. Sure enough, Lang Zhenzhou demanded from the crowd, "Fine! Bring me a sword, please!" There were many martial gods within the hall who carried swords, and hearing his call, a sword immediately was thrown in his direction. Lang Zhenzhou caught it and thrust it in front of Xielian. "Take it! We'll duel right now, no holding back, using everything we've got. We'll see whether we have the same style and whether you've taught me." Everyone thought demanding a duel in the Palace of Divine Might was insolent, but when they thought of the Gilded Banquet massacre and how a dignified crown prince's entire family was slaughtered in cold blood, they could understand his provocation. Sorry, I lost my place for a second. Xielian's injury was still on Sitting Xuan's mind, and Sitting Xuan tried to reason with Lan Zhenzhou. "Zhenzhou, His Highness blocked that attack from Huatang for you and injured his right arm. How can he duel with you?" Hearing this, Lang Zhenzhou suddenly reached out with his left hand and struck down heavily on his own right arm. There was a loud crack, and a mist of blood erupted from his right shoulder. Blood spurted profusely as the limb fell limp. Onlookers could see with no inspection that it was a severe injury, and everyone was shocked. Xielian was also taken aback. He finally lifted his eyes. "What are you doing?" "Lord Windmaster is right," Lang Zhenzhou said. "You did injure your own arm saving me, and so I return an arm in kind. But just as it's true that you saved me, your murder of my clan is also the undeniable truth. I know of your dexterity and that you can use a sword in either hand without the slightest effect on your skills. We'll duel with our lefts. If you're a man, you'll pick up the sword." Xielian looked at the sword, and then looked at him. In the end, he shook his head slowly. "I swore many years ago to never kill with a sword again." His words made Lang Zhenzhou remember that night, and the scene that greeted him when he arrived at the banquet. That black-robed man, his eyes frighteningly bloodshot, pulling a long sword from the dead body of his father with his left hand. The sound of it was like meat being butchered. Sitting Xuan swung out his whisk, and it wrapped around the sword to hold it in place. "I think there must be some sort of misunderstanding here. If that state preceptor Fang Xin always wore a mask, then anyone could have pretended to be him to commit murder. What does my lord think?" Everyone turned their gaze to the jaded throne. "Xianle," Zhenwu spoke. Xielian bowed. "Yes, my lord." "Do you concede that Taihua's accusations are true?" Zhenwu asked. "I concede," Xielian replied. The "I concede" was uttered frostily, the complete opposite of Xielian's usual manner of speaking, and the faces of Feng Xin, Mu Ting, and Shi Qingxuan all changed colors. Zhenwu nodded. Then he questioned further. "The state preceptor Feng Xin, who committed the Gilded Banquet massacre, was that you?" After a moment of silence, Xielian raised his head, his expression one of determination. "That's right. It was me." His answer was loud and clear, and left no opportunity to turn back. "So you admit it. Good," Lang Zhenzhou said. As was previously explained, there were innumerable heavenly officials with mortal blood on their hands in the upper court, but truthfully not many had their old blood debts escalate to this point. After all, most killed mortals didn't have descendants of Lan Zhenzhou's caliber from their families, descendants who could demand justice from the murderer of the descendants who could demand justice from the murderer of the position of an esteemed heavenly official. Pei Xiu was under protection of General Pei, but in the end, he still couldn't escape exile. Xielian had no one to stand behind him. This would all depend on whether Jinwu still valued past affection towards Xielian, and whether the emperor had the heart to protect him. Many still couldn't comprehend what sort of feelings Junwu held towards Xianlian. During his first ascension, the crown prince of Xianle was of course treated with the utmost favor. But the two had a huge fight during his second ascension, and Xianlian even stabbed Junwu a few times before he was defeated. This third ascension, the two had been at peace with each other, as if those past conflicts have been forgotten. Junwu even built a brand new palace for Xianlian, located in the nicest area of the heavenly capital. It was truly difficult to understand. Thus, countless pairs of ears perked up, waiting to hear how the emperor would sentence Xianlian. Unexpectedly, before Junwu had the chance to pass a verdict, Xianlian spoke. Xianle has a presumptuous request. Speak, Junwu responded. I humbly ask my lord to remove my godhood and banish me to the mortal realm, Xianlian said. Some of the heavenly officials were shocked, and at the same time somewhat amazed. No one wanted to be banished, after all. It wasn't easy to ascend, and to work so hard to climb so high only to plummet. Just thinking about it made one want to sigh and lament. There was simply no way they'd dare ask for banishment from Junwu so straightforwardly. At the same time, some of the other heavenly officials couldn't care less. In this sort of situation, it might be better to give up than to vehemently deny everything. Xianlian had been banished twice already. The third time probably meant nothing to him. He should just be used to it by now. Lang Tianqiu, however, objected. I don't need you to banish yourself. Ascension is based on ability alone. I only want a duel. I don't want to fight you, Xianlian said. Why not? Lang Tianqiu shouted. It's not like we've never fought before. Life or death. The outcome doesn't matter. Just put an end to this. Xianlian said plainly, no reason. But fight me, and you will surely die.